After an incident, I was demoted from the head office to a rural branch. I'm now unwelcomed by everyone and sidelined by my department with minimal responsibilities. Then one day I ended up solving a problem for a younger boss who had transferred from the headquarters. The younger boss, who had thought of me as incapable, was surprised by my problem-solving skills. Following that, my life took a complete 180 degrees turn. My name is Michael Johnson. I'm 43 years old. While my peers are busy with marriage, parenting, and climbing the career ladder, I'm single and stuck in a small rural branch far removed from any prospects of promotion. My job involves organizing documents that are about to be stored away, likely never to be seen again. It's the kind of work that wouldn't really matter if I did it or not. If I suddenly quit tomorrow, it wouldn't cause any trouble for anyone. A few years ago, due to certain circumstances, I was transferred to this branch. Initially, I considered quitting, but by that time, I was past my prime working years, and job hunting in the countryside where opportunities are scarce seemed too daunting. So I ended up staying. I used to work at the head office. Suddenly, I was transferred from the head office to this small rural branch. Of course, there was a reason for this, and it seems that the story of why I was transferred had already spread widely within the branch. The original employees would whisper behind my back or look at me with suspicion. Despite that, I tried to engage with them at first, but it seemed they just wanted me to leave as soon as possible. Their overt attitudes sometimes interfered with the work. After several years of this, I've now focused solely on not causing any trouble. I'm treated almost like I don't exist. At best, I'm harmless. At worst, I'm ignored. But reaching this state also required a lot of effort and humility on my part. So, in a way, it's a satisfactory outcome for me. Then one day, a new manager, a transfer from the head office, joined our branch. She was a smart-looking woman in her late 20s, dressed sharply in a suit. Unlike my emotion, her transfer was part of grooming her for a future leadership role. My name is Sarah. I look forward to working with you. She introduced herself, exuding the air of an elite with a confident demeanor. Initially, she seemed a bit stiff, but as she settled in, she began to show more of her youthful, vibrant smile. However, just because she has moved, it didn't change my job in any way. Even though she was my direct superior, there was little interaction between us, given my sidelined position. Sarah held individual meetings with all employees soon after arriving. When it was my turn, I explained my work situation as it was. Sarah frowned and seemed to want to say something, but she didn't, and the meeting ended without any changes to my situation. In the end, my work and life remained unchanged. I spend my days doing meaningless work and head home once it's time to clock out. At home, all I do is eat and then go to sleep. My daily life hasn't changed at all from before. With so little work to do, I even spend my breaks leisurely. I often finish my lunch quickly and then take walks around the office to pass the time. Lately, I've noticed Sarah frequently using her phone in secluded spots. Being a young woman, she might be in touch with a boyfriend. However, Sarah always looked troubled during these moments. Wouldn't she look happier or more excited if she were talking to her boyfriend? I found that a bit curious. But even though I've seen this scene many times, I figured it was none of my business. I hadn't paid much attention to it before. But yesterday, I saw Sarah again, and she looked even more troubled than usual. I just couldn't get her distressed face out of my mind. Even if she had a serious problem, it's unlikely she would turn to someone like me for help. So I decided to carry on as usual. The next day, I arrived at the office first, as always. If there's one good thing about being transferred here, it's that I've been able to lead a healthier lifestyle with an early to bed, early to rise routine and leaving work on time. My health is in top shape. Living alone, I cook my own meals, not just once, but every day. Bringing my homemade lunch and starting the day by wiping down my desk in an empty office has become my daily ritual. Previously, after I arrived at work, William, who is nearing retirement, would usually come in next. But that order changed after Sarah moved, and today, as usual, Sarah came in a while after I did. I greeted her but noticed her complexion looked worse than usual today. Her face was particularly pale. While watching her, I suddenly realized something. Come to think of it, she used to smile so much at first, but lately I haven't seen her smile at all. Concerned about her extremely pale complexion, I was about to suggest that she go home when I heard an "ee" from her desk. At that moment, William arrived, and both he and I turned our gaze towards Sarah. In the direction of our gaze, there was Sarah, pale as a ghost and trembling violently. She was shaking so uncontrollably that the phone she was holding fell to the floor with a dull thud. Seeing Sarah in such a state, I instinctively rushed over to her and asked, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Then, I saw the screen of her phone. It was receiving notifications in real time, and the chat screen was filled with a one-sided barrage of harsh messages, aggressive stickers and emojis. Seeing the chat screen brought back unpleasant memories for me. But I knew I had to prioritize Sarah right now. I pushed those resurfacing memories aside and asked her gently, "Can I take a look at your phone?" Trembling and tearful with fear, Sarah nodded and handed me her phone. Despite being in shock, upon looking at the messages sent to Sarah, I saw an endless stream of texts filled with harsh insults, derogatory remarks, and mocking content, all expressed in the harshest terms imaginable. Towards the end, the messages took a disturbing turn, clearly implying harm, and it felt incredibly dangerous. Although memories from my past threatened to overwhelm me, I made a conscious effort to stay calm and proceeded to ask Sarah a few questions. "Do you know this person?" She shook her head in response to my question. "Any idea who it could be?" As I continued, she bit her lip and answered, "I received comments from this person on a different social media platform. It started off normally but gradually became more extreme. I got scared and blocked them, and then this happened. They've also spread lies about me to my friends and on forums. I'm so scared I can barely sleep." Sarah, seemingly at her limit, buried her exhausted face in her hands. Seeing Sarah like that, I felt a pain in my heart, as if I was looking at my past self. At the same time, I decided I couldn't let her go through what I did, and resolved to help her. "Let's fight back," I said. Sarah looked puzzled at my words, but I was confident I could help her. I understood her pain, sadness, fear, anger, and despair better than anyone. As more employees started arriving, they cast curious looks at the unusual pairing of Sarah and me. Despite feeling the weight of their stares, leaving was not an option for me. Even though Sarah seemed confused, I pointed to her personal computer and asked, "Do you have the history saved?" It might have been harsh to press her in her dazed state, but time was of the essence, and we couldn't afford to waste any. Given the situation, I knew we had to methodically address what needed to be done. So I began giving Sarah instructions. Despite being sidelined at the office, now I was once a high-flying executive at the head office, just a step away from the boardroom. Having studied how to lead and motivate subordinates as a manager, I knew how to get Sarah to take action, despite her current state of shock. I instructed her to first file a deletion request with the S administrators. We aimed to get the situation to a point where we could identify the perpetrator in accordance with the terms specified in the service agreement. Then we printed out all the history and posts from the SAS and forums where Sarah had been harassed and compiled information, such as URIs and email addresses. "Let's go to the police together," I suggested. By then, Sarah had calmed down somewhat, and though she seemed puzzled by my efficiency, she nodded in agreement and followed me to the police station. At the police station, I explained the situation and the measures we had taken, and Sarah presented the evidence to the officers. I emphasized to the police, who didn't seem to grasp the severity of the situation, the rapid escalation of the harasser messages, the repetitive use of certain phrases, and the extensive collection of Sarah's information indicating a high likelihood of habitual stalking and a clear threat of physical violence. The officers, struck by the seriousness of our case, even questioned our relationship. Despite the rumors that might arise about a young woman being involved with an older guy like me, I couldn't help but deny it in a panic, which ended up amusing both the police officer and Sarah. Considering the current situation, the culprit hasn't been identified yet. Moreover, the chances of resolution seem slim given we're dealing with a small local police station. All we could do was carry out whatever measures were possible at the moment. But I knew the importance of these actions all too well. After leaving the police station, I introduced Sarah to a trustworthy lawyer on our way back to the office. It was a necessary step for officially establishing the case. Sarah seemed puzzled by my extensive involvement. "Who exactly are you, Michael? Why are you going to such lengths for me?" It was a natural question given our nearly non-existent prior interaction. Though my acquaintance with Sarah was brief, I found nothing dubious about her character, nor did she seem like someone who would create enemies. That's why I felt it would be terribly unfair for her bright future to be ruined by vile individuals. I didn't want her to go through the same experiences I had, but unable to convey this to Sarah, I awkwardly brushed it off. I just happened to know a thing or two. Eventually, the man behind the harassment and threats towards Sarah was apprehended. He was a complete stranger to her, but apparently the SNS platform had notified him that they were a good match. Using the information from Sarah's SNS, he began to obsessively project his ideal image onto her. The content he posted on forums portraying himself as an ex-boyfriend made me acutely aware of the dangers of sharing personal information online with strangers. After the ordeal with Sarah was resolved, I returned to my routine at the office. However, to my surprise, I wasn't the first to arrive that day. When I got to the office, Sarah was already at her desk, greeting me with a bright smile. "Good morning," she said. Initially surprised, I too returned the greeting with a smile upon seeing her carefree smile. As I was about to sit at my desk, Sarah marched up to me. "Could I have a moment?" she said, pointing outside. I had thought our paths wouldn't cross again after resolving the issue. I was wondering what was going on, but I followed her lead. We stopped in front of the bulletin board used for company announcements. Sarah, with childlike excitement, unveiled a notice with a tada. I braced myself for potential bad news apprehensively. I turned my gaze to the notice board where a temporary personnel announcement was posted. My name, current position, and a transfer to the head office's new CSIRT department were detailed in the center. Sarah explained the new department to me with a face beaming with joy, as if to say the surprise was a huge success. The CSIRT department, she elaborated, was established as a specialized division within the company, extending beyond internal security to focus specifically on issues like information leaks. She then revealed her secret. "Actually, I'm the niece of President Charles. Though I was hired on my own merit, It's undeniable that my situation greatly influenced the establishment of this department. She shared the backstory of the department's inception and chuckled mischievously, seeing my astonishment. Sarah seemed pleased. She then shared something Mr. Charles had told her. It's true. I asked for your help, but beyond that, Mr. Charles has long wished to bring you back to the head office. Despite the difficulty in overturning decisions in such a large company, he regrets exacerbating the hardship of a valued employee. As a family member and someone you've helped, I sincerely apologize. I'm truly sorry. With that, Sarah apologized to me. Indeed, I was once on a fast track at the head office, well regarded by Mr. Charles. However, amidst my rapid progress, an incident occurred in the neighborhood where a girl went missing. Of course, I was aware of the news, but I largely brushed it off as someone else's problem. At that time, I was living in a suburban house with my wife and 2 daughters. However, I was practically only coming home to sleep, so I knew nothing about the neighborhood or the people living in it. Therefore, it should have been an incident that had nothing to do with me. But sometime after the disappearance, my name was somehow posted on a popular bulletin board as a suspect. Before I knew it, my address, family, social media accounts, and workplace were all exposed, and I was condemned as a criminal by the public without my knowledge. My family and I were harassed by the media and onlookers to the point that we couldn't even return home. I was suspended from work and had to attend police inquiries. For a while, my family and I took refuge in my in-laws' house far away. But after a few weeks, even my in-laws, who initially welcomed us warmly, started to look at me with suspicion. Feeling the awkwardness, I discussed leaving with my wife, but she and my daughters couldn't even look me in the eye. Realizing I had no place left, I silently packed my bags and moved to a hotel alone. It was then that I truly realized how much I had neglected my family bonds by focusing solely on work. But it was too late. Since then, I've been hiding alone in cheap hotels like a real criminal. I kept wondering how long this life would last, constantly hunted by the worst thoughts. Months later, the girl's case was suddenly resolved. The culprit was a university student from a distant state who had contacted her through a website for runaways. He lured her to his home through clever manipulation on social media, and when she couldn't find her there, of course, neither the girl nor the arrested student had any acquaintance or relation to me. When I saw the news of the case being solved, I broke down and wept on the spot. While I was relieved the case was solved, I couldn't help but wonder what my life had been all about until now. Overwhelmed by various emotions, I cried all day long. The next day, though still in a daze, I regained my original vitality and decided to take action. I rushed to a law firm offering free consultations and shared my story. The lawyer I met was familiar with my case and became a strong ally, promising to ensure I received justice. From there, everything moved quickly. We rallied public support, pressured the providers and administrators, and quickly obtained information on the malicious party who spread my personal information, filing a lawsuit. The man who ruined my life was arrested easily. I didn't recognize the culprit's name, but when I mentioned it to my wife, who had just returned home, her face went pale. It turns out the man was her high school classmate. They had reconnected at a reunion and had been in touch since, with my wife often sharing her complaints and frustrations about me with him. My wife insisted she hadn't cheated, but at that point, it didn't matter to me anymore. My feelings for her had completely cooled. Of course, it's not entirely her fault. The breakdown of a marriage is often due to both parties. This situation was a result of my neglecting my family. I realized this through the ordeal, And although my wife insisted she wasn't to blame until the end, I didn't blame her. And as for my daughters, who I did love in my own way, they didn't warm up to me much either, having spent so much time with a mother who disliked me. So our parting was over in an instant. It was a surprisingly abrupt end to my family, but the case had been resolved after all, feeling motivated by the resolution. I decided to return to work and give it my all. However, life wasn't that simple. Upon my return, I was met with a transfer to a small rural branch office, a clear demotion. This personnel change had been issued before the true culprit and the person who spread my personal information were caught. But as far as the company was concerned, it was better to err on the side of caution. I was expected to take responsibility for causing a stir. Having just returned and faced this decree, I even considered quitting. But with a trial still pending, and essentially nothing else left for me, I accepted the transfer. So, I was assigned to the branch despite being viewed as an unwelcome presence. As if where there's smoke, there's fire, I continued to be part of the company, eventually becoming the man who doesn't work. Although I was reminiscing about the bitter memories of the past, I couldn't help but smile at the story about Mr. Charles that was conveyed to me by Sarah. I indeed had my concerns about the treatment I received at the time. However, I wasn't fired or demoted, and I've heard it was because Mr. Charles opposed the transfer. Until the end, considering his kindness. Looking back, I can now say that life in the countryside was enjoyable. Upon hearing my words, Sarah timidly showed a smile. As we were talking, a woman approached us idly and said, "Excuse me." She was Lisa from the same department, but we had never really spoken before, and she stood a bit away from us, listening to our conversation. Lisa approached us with a tearful face and apologized. "I think I was initially unfriendly to you, and yet you helped me in many ways." I realized it was a misunderstanding, but I never said anything. "I'm truly sorry." It turned out that not only Lisa, but also William was there and, peeking out, he joined in with an apology. "Well, I didn't really mind, but I'm sorry I couldn't be of any help." Feeling bashful from their apologies, I ended up making a joke. "What is this? Is today apologizing to me?" Then Sarah, with a bright smile, suggested, "Should we make it today? Let's invite Mr. Charles, too." Seeing me flood, all four of us burst into laughter. I never thought I'd see a day when I could laugh like this again. It's a secret that I felt a little teary-eyed. A month after this incident, after a surprisingly comfortable farewell party at the branch, I found myself in the president's office at the headquarters. Mr. Charles, as vigorous as ever, was there, and I felt warmth in my heart to meet him again. Then, Mr. Charles personally explained the significance and purpose of my new department and the expectations for it after its establishment. Not many have experienced a life like yours. However, there will continue to be instances where innocent people like you and your niece suffer. It's presumptuous for a company that couldn't be there for you at that time to say this, but it's precisely because of the regret from that time that I strongly felt the need for a department that can protect not only the company, but also its employees. I believe you, who understand my requests and the meaning of the department, are the right person to lead it. I'm counting on you." Feeling a surge of resolve at his words, I firmly responded, "Yes." And so, I returned to the headquarters as the head of the new department. I was warmly welcomed by those who knew me from before. I received offers of cooperation from many people, and the feelings of disappointment and emptiness I had when I left seemed to finally disappear. I thought I had no allies, no place to belong, but I realized that there were always people who stood by me. Life is unpredictable. What seemed smooth just a moment ago can suddenly plunge into darkness. Conversely, when you think it's all over, you might find joy in unexpected places and pleasant surprises waiting for you. Having gone through various experiences, I've come to truly understand what life is about. Just as harsh natural conditions can create beautiful landscapes, I'd like to think that my experiences have added some depth to me as a person. Now I stand in front of the new department that has become my place once again. Slapping my cheeks with both hands to psych myself up, I say, "All right," out loud and step into my new department, ready to start anew.
You truly exceeded yourself. Wow. I'm happy I trusted you with this. For our overseas clientele, it would be ideal if you could go over and beyond and provide this presentation in Spanish. Do you not think? The new female employee had just been made to give a presentation by Mitchell, the department head, and now he was pressuring her to do so in Spanish. What? I can't possibly give a presentation in Spanish all of a sudden, she cried. Hey, did I not tell you that today would be attended by worldwide executives? Being ready for that is just common sense, Mitchell said smugly. But that's impossible. After being instructed to present in Spanish, the new hire, who had been utterly unprepared, was pale and on the edge of tears. I was unable to continue viewing this. Mitch, let me handle the Spanish presentation, I replied. Hey, you, the one who lacks competence. With a sneer, Mitchell challenged me to try. But his face lost its color as I started talking. It was time to exact revenge on him for all of his actions. One of the biggest suppliers of auto components in the United States is where I work. I was assigned to a regional office until recently, but I have since been moved to the company's coveted first sales division at headquarters. Ivy, the famous beauty, was one of 5 of us recently assigned to the division. Mitchell, the division leader, greeted us on our first day. Hello, new workers. The company's elite core is this initial sales division. It is our responsibility to expand our markets by promoting our best items, both domestically and abroad. Millions to tens of millions of dollars are at stake in these transactions. You'd better be careful because a mistake could cost you everything. Sales are the most important factor, and they remain so from the 3rd to the 10th. You understand? Just raise the numbers. Mitchell shouted in a menacing voice, cautiously looking at the faces of the new arrivals. He scowled contemptuously when he reached me. Well, I never imagined seeing you again. I take that you clawed your way out of the regional office. However, I wouldn't be shocked if you needed to return. Until then, please don't make too much trouble. Mitchell was making fun of me in public. There was a sense among the other new hires that I must have made a mistake in the past. I used to work with Mitchell at headquarters in the PR department. I was excited when I first started working for the company and wanted to outwork everyone in order to close as many deals as I could. Mitchell was always criticizing me and pushing me to do impossible things whenever he could since he didn't like my ambition. He has a pattern of persistently harassing workers he dislikes. I was moved from headquarters to a regional office as a result of his harassment. It was obvious that this circumstance was a continuation of it. Mitchell continued making passive-aggressive comments about me and comparing me to the other new hires, as was to be anticipated. He particularly enjoyed comparing me to Ivy and frequently complimented her accomplishments. Ivy, you're truly amazing. A Harvard graduate, a superb worker, and stunning as well. You seem to have it all, despite the saying that nobody gets everything in life. It fills me with pride. Continue your excellent work. With modesty, Ivy said, Oh no, it's all thanks to your guidance, Mitchell, and the senior staff's support. Well, and Mark comes next. What on earth are you doing? Ivy might be able to teach you something. You had decent sales figures in the sticks, but that was probably just chance, isn't it? At least don't bring me down, even though I don't have big expectations for you. You understand. I'll see to it that you are moved even farther away if you make a mistake once again. Yes, sir. I tried to remain composed as I answered. I'll keep that in mind. Remember that. Don't just say nice things to me. You would have doubled your current sales if you truly understood. Do you really think this is serious? Come together. In actuality, I had already surpassed my goals and my numbers weren't bad at all. Mitchell, however, decided to overlook that. It seems that some of the other new hires began to notice how strange it was that I was receiving criticism in spite of my strong work. One of them said, "Mark, you're hitting your targets, so why is Mitchell being so harsh?" Mitchell is the type of person who enjoys disparaging workers that he dislikes. He's exactly like that, I clarified. In the meantime, Ivy, the star new hire, was consistently growing her sales because of both her skill and her good looks. Having someone as attractive and talented as Ivy in sales frequently resulted in positive reactions from the male executives who made up a large portion of our clientele. Business is obviously all about abilities and outcomes, but I couldn't help but think that sometimes her appearance was helping her. Nevertheless, I was concerned that her achievement may cause unneeded attention or conflict. "You're fantastic, Ivy. You're gorgeous and talented," I said. "Mark, please don't make fun of my appearance. Do you believe that I have accomplished this much without exerting myself? To ensure that people don't only view me for my appearance, I've put in twice as much effort." I said, "Sorry, that was thoughtless of me," after recognizing my error. She continued to speak sharply, obviously agitated by my thoughtless remarks. "Additionally, Mark, why are you in the first sales division at all? Top salespeople make up this team. Is it accurate to say that you increased sales at your regional office? To be honest, I don't think you're trying hard based on your behavior here. Many people are vying for a position in this division. You're wasting a valuable position if you're not going to attempt." "Oh, sorry." I stumbled, surprised at how serious she was. "You seem so at ease and unconcerned all the time. Why don't you simply request a transfer from HR if you're not serious about this?" she recommended. Since she never gave up and kept working hard, it was only inevitable that someone like her would become the best performer in the sales sector, even though she had likely spent a large portion of her life being viewed by others as just a gorgeous face. Mitchell's affection for Ivy grew even greater. "Ivy, we've got dinner with the department head of the client later, so you're coming with me." When Ivy said, "Yes, I'd be happy to join you," Ivy was dragged along to client meals, and this began to happen more often. She was aware that Mitchell was only using her as a prop for these encounters. "Ivy, you are aware that going to client meals after work is discouraged by the organization, correct? It is not something I would advise doing frequently, even with Mitchell. To be honest, you should avoid him. Is jealousy speaking? You seem to be the kind of person that doesn't appreciate informal surroundings. I need to push myself right now. My goal is higher. Don't put me in the same category as someone who lacks motivation as you." My counsel was ignored. One day, Ivy was chosen by Mitchell to be in charge of a big project's presentation. "I'm confident you can manage it, Ivy. Being selected as a newcomer is an honor, and this is a significant initiative for the company's future." "Yes, I'll do my best." The company's recently created EV control system was marketed to both domestic and foreign markets as part of this initiative. The large promotional campaign involved not just the sales department, but also the development and public relations teams. However, it was rash to give a new hire such a significant presentation. Concerns were also voiced by several members of the PR department. Because of her affluent upbringing, it seemed as though the firm was utilizing the gorgeous Ivy as a poster girl. Even rumors of a deeper relationship between Mitchell and Ivy began to circulate among the staff. It was undoubtedly a popular topic, whether it was good or terrible. Since the project involved the launch of a new product, there was an enormous amount of data to gather, such as competition analysis and cost-effectiveness comparisons with the prior control system. One person could not possibly handle it all. Even with the assistance of the development and manufacturing teams, it was still too much for Ivy to handle alone. Furthermore, I was aware that she was practically always pulled out for drinks with Mitchell. She was barely getting any sleep and worked extra every day. Her look was suffering as a result of the dark circles beneath her eyes becoming more noticeable and her face being thinner and more worn out. "Can I be of any assistance, Ivy? I must be able to do something to ease the burden." She stared at me as though I, of all people, were insulting her when I volunteered to help her while she was frantically gathering documents in the conference room. "I'm all right. Mark, I don't need your assistance. I'm capable of managing this alone." But I persisted because I knew that if she didn't seek some help, things would only become worse. "All well, but you won't be able to complete the presentation if you overexert yourself and collapse. I can assist with any background work or data organization. Allow me to assist you, please." She appeared to weigh the advantages of accepting my offer after giving it some thought. "Okay, if you insist. Could you create a chart that compares the products of the competitors?" "Sure, no problem." I began assisting Ivy with the presentation materials after that. As I collaborated with her, the sheer volume of work became even more apparent. I had the unshakable suspicion that Mitchell was acting with a hidden agenda. "All right, Ivy, how is this?" I gave Ivy the completed document I had created. "What? It's already finished. This is incredible. It's really clear and well structured. Who are you truly, Mark?" "Me? I'm just a regular worker. But I'm happy it was helpful. But this burden is crazy, really. You would have collapsed if you had attempted to complete it by yourself. It's fine if you don't mention my help, but please let me keep lending a hand." "Are you sure?" "Obviously. Thank you." I must admit that I had no idea how I was going to handle everything by myself. I couldn't let all of her effort to be in vain. I refused to give Mitchell what he desired. We completed the presentation materials the day before the important meeting because I did everything I could to lighten Ivy's load. "Thank you, Mark. I couldn't have made it this far without your assistance." No, Ivy, it's all because of your diligence. The only thing left to do is make the presentation flawless. Let's get this done." We then proceeded to the new product presentation, which would decide the company's future. Key executives from major automakers filled the room, and even executives from other countries participated electronically. Ivy gave a polished and pertinent presentation. The crowd remained attentive and cheerful the entire time thanks to her bright grin and polished manner. Her presentation was obviously receiving a lot of positive feedback. "Ivy, you nailed it, as expected," Mitchell stated as he stood next to her once she was done. "I was sure I could rely on you." "I'm grateful." "Mitchell, it's all because of your suggestion." Mitchell revealed something shocking just before the Q&A session began. "But since we've got so many international clients today, if you could push it just a bit further, it would be absolutely perfect." "What do you mean?" "Well, for example, if you could seamlessly switch to Spanish and finish the presentation in style." "What? You're talented. Come on. You should have no trouble with that." "However, I am unable to. I wasn't expecting this. I can't possibly give a presentation in Spanish without any prior preparation." "Suddenly, what do you mean? Did I not warn you that you might have to do it in Spanish?" "No. I was just informed that I would be presenting. You never mentioned using Spanish for it." "Are you now offering excuses?" "I informed you that today would be attended by worldwide executives. It should have been common sense to prepare for that." "But She was only supposed to deliver the presentation in English when she was first given the assignment. She might be able to communicate in Spanish for a few greetings, but delivering a thorough presentation using technical terms, it was not doable. Mitchell, however, kept pushing her into a corner. "You can't do it. What? Did you not graduate from Harvard? You'll ruin the presentation and the entire sale if you can't even handle this. But trying to present in broken Spanish would be even worse. Don't respond. You follow instructions when they are given to you. Seeing Ivy go pale and break under the strain was too much for me to bear any longer. Mitchell, let me handle the presentation in Spanish. What? You? You can't possibly deliver a presentation in Spanish. Unless I try, you won't know, right? Avoid the same error that was made previously. Mark, if you mess up again, I'll make sure you're transferred even further away. I stepped in front of Ivy and started the presentation in fluent Spanish, saying, I'm prepared for that. I began by introducing myself and thanking the executives for giving me the opportunity to present our new product. I then went over the product's development process with them and emphasized its advantages. I concluded by outlining the advantages of utilizing the product and how it would increase profitability, even included some precise figures. The foreign CEOs began nodding and remarking, excellent and amazing, as I spoke fluently. I didn't stop there, though. I went on to give presentations in Mandarin for the Chinese executives and Hindi for the Indian executives. As I fluently transitioned between languages, Mitchell gaped at me in disbelief. The room exploded in applause as before. I successfully wrapped up the multilingual presentation. In addition to the presentation going well, we were able to land contracts with a number of significant businesses. As a matter of fact, numerous clients expressly asked me to serve as their future point of contact. When we were summoned to the CEO's office a few hours later, Mr. Nash personally congratulated us on our accomplishment. Mitchell was there, of course. Mr. Nash, who was unaware of the whole situation, also praised Mitchell and credited his leadership for the achievement. As arrogant as ever, Mitchell most likely claimed all the credit, reveling in the recognition. When Mitchell walked out of the CEO's office, he mumbled to himself, "Well, this seals my promotion." "Don't let today's success get to you," he continued, turning to face us. That presentation seemed like a cheap ploy to me. If I hadn't been your supervisor, Mr. Nash wouldn't have given you praise. Remember that going forward, you must be prepared to respond to any request that is made of you. He then turned to go. What a man. Ivy turned to me and lowered her head as I stood there dumbfounded. Thank you so much, Mark. We wouldn't have gotten the contracts if you hadn't intervened back there. What might have happened to the company's reputation is also unknown. I still shudder when I think about it. However, how come you are fluent in Hindi and Chinese in addition to Spanish? Who are you really? Well, at my first presentation as a new employee, Mitchell did the same thing to me. All of a sudden, he instructed me to speak in Spanish. A catastrophe resulted from my stress and my poor Spanish. Mitchell blamed me for being unprepared, and I was sent to a regional office, even though we narrowly made the sale. I was supposed to be on the quick road to success at the time because I had graduated from a prestigious institution. I put in a lot of effort to live up to those standards, but that's when Mitchell saw me. I could hardly sleep because he worked me to the bone. I was sent to a regional office for a single presenting fault after my scores were deemed Mitchell's. I can't express how angry I was when I found out later that this was Mitchell's method of operation. Despite my initial disappointment upon arriving at the regional office, I couldn't help but think of Mitchell's arrogant face. I began learning languages after realizing I couldn't let things finish that way. The regional office was a cultural melting pot, situated close to a major auto production facility and a U.S. military base. The pub I visited was packed with Chinese and Indians who were more than willing to teach me their languages in exchange for a few drinks, and a businessman who worked with the base offered to teach me Spanish for a nominal fee. Rudra was one of the group. He was the one who actually listened to me when I was depressed and first sent to the regional office. I would let my feelings out while we drank together. On certain nights, I would cry when my family called to express their concern for me. Rudra never once displayed signs of irritation and was always there to support and encourage me, even when I was at my lowest. Life has its ups and downs, Mark. Just drink when things are horrible. I'll hear all of your grievances. He taught me Hindi, and we hit it off right away and had a lot of chats. Over road trips and picnics, we grew close and became friends. You're a wonderful man, Mark. You're trustworthy and honest, but I used to believe Americans were superficial. Rudra, I adore your sense of humor and find you to be incredibly kind and amiable. Concerning money. While money is important to Indians, we value enjoyment even more. American barbecue is the best. He was particularly fond of American barbecues, which complemented my interests. He promised to take me around when the time came after I told him how much I'd love to travel to India someday for a road trip to explore the country's wide landscapes and enjoy an Indian-style barbecue. We made the most of our time together, and to be honest, studying from native speakers was far more beneficial than taking a language course. That's how I quickly picked up Hindi, which is reportedly difficult for Americans. All of it has helped me become fluent in Chinese, Hindi, and Spanish. Next, I'm considering learning Arabic and French. That is amazing. However, why did you conceal it for so long? Because Mitchell had something planned. Any talented newcomers who could challenge him are likely to be crushed by him. I was one of his victims, and after I was transferred to the regional office, I heard that other new hires received the same treatment. Thus, I was also on the verge of being crushed. Oh, essentially, I kept my abilities a secret because I was afraid he might do something. Isn't it better to be ready? Whoa, I didn't know. Mark, I've been so haughty and conceited toward you. I sincerely apologize. It was me who was unable to comprehend. Ivy expressed her heartfelt regret for her treatment of me. However, Mitchell's actions of claiming all the credit for his team's labors and pushing them over their breaking point, ruining their futures in the process, are unacceptable. It's not acceptable. You're correct. I was sent to this department for a reason, in fact. What? You don't mean to wait. If there's anything I can do to help, I'll do whatever it takes. I told Ivy a secret that I was keeping. The customer CEO, who was in the United States at the time, was supposed to attend our usual meeting with one of our key clients a few days later. Mitchell stood apprehensively in front of the executives, having been assigned to deliver the sales report. I moved forward resolutely just as he was ready to start. Before Mitchell delivers his sales report, I have something important to share with everyone. I displayed a few documents on the screen as I was speaking. Despite the brief muttering in the room, I maintained my composure and started speaking to the multinational executives in Chinese, Hindi, and Spanish. Clear proof that payments from subcontractors were routed through a fictitious account and ended up in Mitchell's personal account exposed Mitchell's fraudulent activity on the screen. A video also played, revealing a covered agreement Mitchell had signed at a private club for members only with a particular business. Mitchell pocketed the difference after pressuring the subcontracted parts factory to reduce their pricing while maintaining the invoice amounts. He then funded secret agreements and extravagant client entertaining with that money. Even evidence of him unlawfully transferring corporate property was found. Mark, stop. What evidence do you have to support these falsehoods? They're not falsehoods. This evidence is all authentic. Actually, I worked in the direct audit department of the CEO. Mr. Nash had taken notice of my abilities in the regional office and my experience working under Mitchell. He had given me the assignment to look into Mitchell's actions. Mr. Nash, who had heard reports about Mitchell's dubious activities, was already suspicious. The audit department's assistance was crucial to the investigation's success. Beads of cold sweat formed on Mitchell's forehead as his face went pale. This low-level employee is not worth listening to. He's bluffing everything he says. I promise that I haven't done anything improper. Even though Mitchell didn't appear to know it yet, it was too late for him to make any explanations. Finally, the client company's CEO, who was seated in the center of the room, spoke out. Mark would never tell lies. His testimony is credible. In this case, Mitchell is at fault. What? One of the people seated in the client CEO's chair was someone I knew well. The person who had taught me Hindi was Rudra. I am aware of Mitchell's standing. His practice of ensnaring new hires and dispatching them to regional offices is well known. Our company will not be working with Mitchell since I don't trust him. But what will your business do, Mr. Nash? Yes, we will carry out a comprehensive investigation and deal with Mitchell as necessary. Rest assured, please. I understand. If so, I hope you'll designate a better candidate moving ahead. Of course. Think of it as completed. Mitchell departed the room as if it were the end of the world after Mr. Nash's statement, his face a picture of defeat. In hindsight, Rudra undoubtedly already knew who I was, even if I was unaware that he was the CEO of a significant automaker. He had paid close attention to my tirades about Mitchell during our drinking sessions, I recall, and he had asked more questions than most people would want to hear. Following the meeting, Rudra gave me a cool thumbs up. In a cunning move, I gave Rudra the thumbs up as well. With smiles on our faces, we both walked out. I later gave the audit department all of the supporting documentation. The bogus claims were thoroughly investigated, and Mitchell's misdeeds were made public. Mitchell had warned the factory manager that if they didn't slash their PR prices, he would cut back on their orders. Feeling helpless, the manager cooperated and took part in the false allegations. Mr. Nash put Mitchell on disciplinary leave and demoted him after discovering the full scope of his behavior. When asked, Mitchell acknowledged that he was worried about new hires challenging his job. He destroyed promising rookies before they could pose a threat because of this. Mitchell, why would you do this? Hey, my concern would be incomprehensible to you future stars. I believed I could earn some extra cash from the plant because I required outcomes to keep my job as department head. That seems empty, doesn't it? I put in a lot of work after you sent me away and returned here. However, how about you? You didn't put forth any meaningful effort. All you did was destroy talented new hires. Now, what have you got to show for it? He fell silent. I'm going to work hard on myself to reach a greater altitude. You know you're cheating, don't you? Because you won't leave anything for me. Soon after, Mitchell permanently left the company, biting his lip in disgust. I was expressly asked to serve as Rudra's company's point of contact. Naturally, Rudra and I are still close friends and equals now. I was formally elevated to sales department head in recognition of my contribution to exposing Mitchell's dishonesty. Mark, congrats on your advancement. Your diligence is a true inspiration to me. Please keep directing me. Wherever you go, I'll follow you. Respected Ivy put a lot of effort into honing her language and sales abilities. She follows me around because she wants to know how I approach sales. She soon began working with me for so long that she stopped coming home and instead stayed at my house. We eventually began dating, and she is now my amazing wife. Being sent to the regional office wasn't a significant setback in my life, as I had previously believed. I needed that transfer in order to be successful. All obstacles, even failures, are but stepping stones to achievement. There are no quick fixes for reaching your objectives. The best way to succeed is to work consistently and steadily each day. You don't have to hurry. I'll keep moving forward in life, one step at a time, and remaining loyal to who I am.